All right, and we are live. It's Dr. J here in the house with Evan Brand. Today's podcast is going to be on the lymphatic system and how important it is, especially when you have stressors and things like infections going on in your body. We're going to talk about what the lymphatic system is, how you can support it, and how important it is, especially if you have things like infections, which are stressors on your body that could be essentially clogging up that lymph system. So I'm excited. It should be a great podcast today. Evan, how we doing, man?
Hey, I'm doing well. I was looking at a picture of the lymphatic system, and we were talking off air about how crazy it is that the lymph is its own separate system from the blood. So when you think of all your blood flow and arteries and veins going every which direction, and then you look at a picture of your lymphatic system, it's almost like two totally separate but parallel highways in the body, which is just incredible. I've never done like a human cadaver work. Did you ever do that when you were in school? Did you ever work on human cadavers at all?
Yeah, we did. Yep. I have a lot of experience with that.
Could you see like lymph nodes and such when you were in there, or was it just too small?
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely see a lot of the lymph. I mean, a lot of it's going to be dehydrated when the fluid's not there because it's kind of like a balloon without air in it.
Right.
It's more collapsed. It kind of looks like a little bit of tissue. But yeah, definitely you can see it. Lymph plays a pretty major role in the body. I mean, typically what I describe the people is like you have tissue, you have blood, and the blood has to be clean because the blood's going to the organs. So you have like nutrition and things coming in, and then you have waste buildup from the tissue, whether it's metabolic stuff like lactic acid or toxin exposure, whatever. And that's going to essentially go from the tissue. Think of the lymph as the filter, the in-between type of filter. And then think of the blood as everything that's clean. So in other words, like if people have like a gravity filter, like a Berkey filter, right? Think of the top part of the Berkey. Think of that as like your tissue fluid. That's your tissue fluid, all right? The fluid in your tissue, lymphatic fluid. Think of the filter, the Berkey filter component. That's like the lymph. And then think of the clean water you drink is like the blood. All right. So that's kind of the lymph in a nutshell. And it's really important because when we get exposed to toxins and stressors, we want to make sure that's really clean. And there's a couple of different organs that are responsible and that are involved in the process of filtering. So there's a bunch of different things. I have them listed out here. But in general, we have spleen, which actually helps make a lot of red blood cells and are really, really important for making the healthy cells that we need to, to have good function. Thymus also makes a lot of T cells and lymphocytes, which are actual white blood cells that are involved in the lymphatic system, which is really important. They actually call attention to attack infections and really important for knocking down cancer and other not so good things. We have the lymph vessels, which are like essentially the transport pipes between the lymph nodes. The lymph nodes are like the filters, right? That's where like a lot of monocytes and other bigger players are going to live, and they will start gobbling up and attacking and lysing or breaking down a lot of critters. So the lymph nodes are kind of where a lot of these things hide and stay, and they will go and attack a lot of these critters. And you'll see lymph nodes swell a lot because it's gobbling it up. It's kind of like you get putting a lot of food down the garbage disposal. It may kind of like the water may kind of back up for a minute while the garbage disposal kind of breaks it all down and while it gets, shot down the pipe. So we talked about the thymus, we talked about lymph nodes and lymph vessels and what's the difference there. The spleen's really important. We talked about that because that's where you're going to make some red blood cells. There's also going to be a lot of filtering of toxins there. Then we have tonsils, which are really the first major filters, the first major lymph in the body. And these tend to get removed because it's like the pre-filter that just gets black or congested or clogged really soon. And we can see that one get filtered up and can get congested, and people get tonsil stones. And this is kind of the major pre-filter that gets pulled out first, which is really sad, right? I had my tonsils taken out at age 5, so that's a real common thing. And last but not least is going to be the bone marrow, right? Bone marrow helps make red blood cells, helps make white blood cell and platelets. So really important with the immune system. Also, a lot of lymphocytes come from there as well. So we need lymphocytes. They're the cells that are going to primarily hang out in the lymphatic system. And then one more thing about the spleen. Spleen is the largest organ in the lymphatic system. So its primary job is to filter out kind of damaged old red blood cells. So we want healthy red blood cells. So the spleen is really, really important for that. And then basically the spleen also helps mature a lot of our lymphocytes. So that's where they grow up and become stronger and bigger. So that now when they enter the lymphatic system, they're ready to go and they're ready to do its job and help keep the blood really clean. So that's kind of the general organs. I'll give you a minute to comment, Evan. What do you think?
That's all awesome info. I'm just so amazed at the lymphatic system. You know, when I first had tick bites, this was probably 2011, maybe 2012, when I was working at the park system. I remember feeling low left quadrant pain and learning more about Lyme disease and co-infections, Epstein-Barr virus, certain bacteria. They can actually affect the spleen and cause the spleen to swell. So like Lyme disease, you can have spleen swelling. And so if you've had pain on that, looking down at yourself, that lower left quadrant over there, that could be related. And so really you and I were kind of talking about this off air. Lymphatic system problems are really secondary, meaning the lymphatic system kind of catches the crap that wasn't addressed upstream. Right. So meaning if you've got bacterial infections in your gut that haven't been addressed, if you have Epstein-Barr virus and other viral infections that are suppressing your immune system, now the lymphatic system kind of has to come in as like the secondary team. Hey, we're going to try to help out. But the goal is not just take lymphatic support herbs to get that better. You have to still work upstream to fix the root cause. So if you need antiviral herbs, you've got to use antiviral herbs. Or if you need antimicrobials to address the bacteria overwhelming the lymphatic system, you've got to get rid of bacteria and then get the proper testing done too. So, you know, if I'm mentioning Lyme and co-infections, you got to try to look for that stuff and see, do you actually have Lyme and or co-infections causing spleen pain or swollen lymph nodes in the groin or armpit or in the throat? I was telling you this morning, my throat had felt kind of weird, kind of tight up in here. So I'm assuming I've got some lymphatic stagnation going on. And we were looking at some research and we found that there was a study from, it was Journal of Complementary Medicine, and it was just titled Study of the Effects of a Single Session of Swedish Massage on HPA and Immune Function. And it was pretty cool. What they found is that just let's see, was it a 45-minute massage or was it an hour? Yeah, 45 minutes of Swedish massage compared to a light touch massage. It was proven the Swedish massage, number one, it lowered cortisol a bit, but then it increased the number of lymphocytes significantly. And then it also decreased interleukin 4, 5, 10, and 13, meaning that we've actually lowered inflammatory cytokines. So you mentioned that massage is a critical part of just your maintenance plan on your own body. I should be doing more massage, it sounds like, and everybody definitely could and should benefit.
Yeah, massage is a really important tool. I mean, it really helps move the lymph mechanically, right? So you can move the lymph mechanically, just like you would with a lymph brush. And again, the key is if you're going to, you can even massage yourself. That's not a problem. It's pretty simple. It's just basically light, gentle touch. I mean, you can do deeper, but essentially you want to always bring it back to the heart. That's kind of the key. Like when I was doing more chiropractic work, there was something known as what's called a fascial flush. And when we were taught that technique, I would use a percussor or a roller, and we'd always bring it back to the heart. So if we were in the front, we'd bring it up the inferior vena cava back to the heart, because that's where the lymph's all dumping back. Because the goal is the lymph is taking fluid and filtering it out and bringing it back to the heart so the heart can pump out clean stuff, right? So we're bringing it back to the heart, either from the front, we're going down up, or from the back, we're going up and over, like over the shoulder, back to the heart or back to the heart. So if you're watching the video, that makes a little bit more sense. So if we're in the back, we're going up and over the shoulders, back in the direction of the heart on the left side, or in the front, we're going up to that left side to kind of get that fluid back there so it can go back into circulation. And that's really important. Also, yesterday, I was doing a lot of whole body vibration. So I got a massage. I also did whole body vibration. Whole body vibration is going to be amazing on the lymphatic system. You're moving lymphatic fluid so much, your everything kind of almost feels very warm because there's so much movement of your internal lymph where everything's just heated up. It's pretty amazing. And that really helps because you're helping to move that lymph and keep things moving, which is amazing, right? The more that filter gets clogged, the more things just start to kind of stay and get stagnant. So keeping that lymph moving is amazing. You're going to have the same thing with exercise because you're pumping your muscles. And when you're pumping your muscles, it's kind of like you're giving yourself an internal massage by contracting the muscle. So muscle movement is going to help as well. That's really important. I would also say drinking enough clean water is important because if you don't have enough good, clean fluid to work with, God forbid that you're using a lot of fluid that's like soda or alcohol based, that's going to create more inflammation and that's going to make that fluid be like molasses, like very viscous. So drinking lots of good, clean fluid and having good electrolytes as well is going to help. We need healthy electrolyte levels so our sodium, potassium pumps can work. Not enough sodium and potassium, we're going to have some problems there.
I can't believe that some people just don't drink pure water. You know, I've had clients where the husband or the brother, the sister, the cousin, they say all they drink is tea or juice or soda. And I'm like, well, do they drink just pure water? Nope, they don't like water. I'm like, oh my goodness, how do you not like water? How do you not drink pure water? If you're just living on sweet tea or even unsweet tea, that's just a diuretic. It's not good.
Yeah, definitely not good because they will cause you to lose more water. So I always tell people anytime you're drinking coffee or tea, that doesn't count as your fluid for the day. And number two is you have to compensate and actually do more high quality fluid to combat the decrease in fluid from peeing it out. So that's really important.
Let's talk about symptoms a bit. So things that could be going wrong with you and you would know, hey, I've probably got something wrong with my lymphatic system and therefore there's probably an issue above that. So like chronic fatigue could be common. We talked about the swelling of the lymph nodes, like your throat, the jawline there, the armpits, the groin, muscle aches and pains, joint pains, sore throat, just in general. That's pretty easy. Getting colds more often, frequent infections, viruses, fibromyalgia symptoms, arthritis, and even cancer formation could be on this list here because what's it called? Hodgkin's disease. That's a lymphatic cancer. Lymphoma. That's a lymphatic cancer.
Yeah, essentially the cancer cells accumulating in that lymph system. We're not going to go into the different types of it, not necessary, but in general, the more we keep our immune system and our lymphatic system healthy through keeping inflammation down. Inflammation is one of the first and best things because number one, cancer cells are primarily going to thrive in a glucose rich kind of anaerobic environment. So the more we provide good oxygenation through keeping inflammation down and through movement, that's going to keep those cells moving, right? The more we put more inflammation into the system, that's going to add interleukins and cytokines are going to be responding as a result, right? It's kind of like you throw a rock in the beehive, the bees are going to swarm afterwards. When you put a whole bunch of inflammation in your body via food or stress or infections like bacteria or viruses, you're going to have a lot of interleukins and cytokines being produced, which are going to make cells agglutinate. Agglutinate means like stick together. So it's like if you're trying to clean something, a whole bunch of grease gets put into your sink, you just feel that coat of everything. And that's kind of what's happening in your lymphatic system. Everything just gets really viscous and very coated. So we want to make sure that we keep inflammation down. So a good paleo template. And if you're really inflamed, keeping the glucose and the carbohydrates down can be helpful just because glucose and sugar can cause a lot of stress on the lymphatic system as well. I mean, if you're healthy and you're exercising and you're leaner, you may be able to handle that. Also, lower thyroid function is important because low thyroid function or hypothyroid was originally known as mixed edema, hence the word edema. So we need healthy thyroid function also for your metabolism to work, for your heart to work and such. So we need healthy thyroid levels. We can see extra fluid retention with that. I see a lot of people develop fluid retention during an autoimmune flare. So getting exposed to gluten or any other autoimmune foods that could create inflammation. And of course, people that have an autoimmune predilection or predisposition, they're going to create more inflammation and their immune system is going to aid. Their immune system is going to actually come to the party and create more inflammation by attacking. So we talked about adding inflammation to the system. Well, if you're autoimmune, we're adding inflammation, but then your immune system also joins in at the party and creates more inflammation as well. So it creates this spiral control. That's why you see a lot of people with autoimmune issues have lots of swelling and lots of lymph issues for sure.
Not good. So you got to get it under control. You mentioned thyroid. So looking into thyroid testing with your practitioner would be a key thing to do. Making sure you're getting a full panel too. Like I had a woman last week, she emailed me. She said, yeah, here's my endocrinologist. They did blood work on my thyroid and it was literally TSH and total T3 or maybe total T4, maybe 2 or 3 markers total. And that's their quote, full thyroid panel, which, I mean, that's just not enough information to do anything with. Do you want to speak on proper thyroid testing, making sure you're getting above and beyond standard of care?
Yeah. So with the thyroid, we definitely want to be looking at TSH to make sure that's adequate. Ideally below 2.5, but definitely below 3 is ideal. And if it's not, then the question is why. So then we go look at T4 levels, 1 to 1.5 for T4 free, 6 to 10 for T4 total, right? Free looks at the functional amount of thyroid hormone that can actually dock to a receptor site. Total looks at the overall strength of the gland. Free is more important. I like to see both in range. And then T3 free is about 3 or above is adequate. And then 100 or above for T3 total. And then, of course, we have reverse T3, which can go up when T3 starts to drop. We may see it with inadequate selenium levels, with liver stress, and with adrenal stress. And then T3 uptake, which T3 uptake tends to be adequate if reverse T3 is good and T3 levels are good. That's kind of the uptake of that thyroid hormone by the receptor sites. So we look at all of those things, and it's important. If we have low thyroid levels, we want to get to the root cause. We'd also want to look at thyroid antibodies, because antibodies, remember that autoimmune mechanism is a big part. So TPO or thyroglobulin antibodies are really big. So if that's high, that tells you your immune system is really aiding into that fight. And that could be really creating a lot of sluggishness with the thyroid and your immune system.
I felt a huge difference just comparing and contrasting my blood work. When I had elevated reverse T3, at one point I was in the 30s. I was like a 34 with reverse T3, which is real high. And I had a lot of adrenal stress going on. I had mold exposure. I had tick bites. I had immune stress. I had all of it. So it would make sense why I felt so sluggish. That reverse T3 was just way too high. And last time I checked my blood, reverse T3 looked great. I was down to like a 12. So, but don't just depend on your thyroid panel. You could have perfect thyroid numbers and still feel like crap and still have problems with lymphatic swelling and other issues.
Yeah. Also, heart's really important, obviously, because the heart's the muscle that's pumping everything. So if you're older and you have risk factors or symptoms of heart failure, right, or cardiovascular disease, right, we'd see that with lots of inflammation or decreased ejection fraction of the heart, maybe higher blood pressure, right? Higher blood pressure means your heart has to pump harder and work harder to kind of move. Because if your blood pressure is 150 over 90, your heart has to generate more force than the pressure in the arteries to move things. So you're having to work 20 or 30% harder. So a lot of times that's going to be from inflammation, because inflammation is going to cause constriction of a lot of the vessels. The more inflammation you have, you start generating foam cells, you decrease your nitric oxide, your NO, which is going to be really important for vasodilation. People that consume lots of fructose or that have mold exposure or inflammation from infections, that's going to decrease your nitric oxide levels, which nitric oxide is your natural vasodilator.
Yeah, I can tell you 100%. Last summer, my blood pressure was crazy. And I did the Berkeley, I think it's Berkeley, not Berkey, but Berkeley test strips. It's a nitric oxide test strip. You put it on your tongue. I failed it every single time, just showing I had no nitric oxide production at all. So in the interim, while I'm in the middle of detox, I've been doing beet powder and some arginine and citrulline and other things to try to help hawthorn, some extra folate. I've been trying to increase my nitric oxide, but I'm still using Band-Aids. My ultimate goal has to be to detoxify, but luckily blood pressure is back to normal now. So I've experienced exactly what you said, and it's not fun.
Exactly. And then if we see that, of course, we're working on getting everything inflammation, getting the inflammation down, and we're working on giving nutrients to help our heart work. So, I mean, low-hanging fruit are going to be high-quality B vitamins, carnitine to help generate energy from fat, CoQ10, which is really important for the heart, so it can have that energy to run the electron transport chain and help beat. And then, of course, magnesium as well, because magnesium is a natural beta blocker. And a lot of times people's heart are stimulated too much by that sympathetic nervous system, causing the heart to contract and beat. So magnesium is going to really help relax the heart too. So when you're not stressed, your heart can actually downshift. It's like driving a car and having it be stuck in first gear on the highway, and your RPMs are too high. So it allows you to go into that higher gear for the highway, but then also allows you to downshift so you can relax and go into that lower gear when it's time as well.
Yep. Let's briefly mention other testing, things that may be important if you're dealing with the lymphatic system problems. So we talked about thyroid. You mentioned antibodies, which is great. I would throw organic acids testing into the mix because we know that bacterial infections can stress out the immune system in general. So streptococcus and staphylococcus and parasites and worms and candida overgrowth. These are things we can find using a combination of stool and urine test.
Yeah, and you can see the extreme with parasites that get into the lymph. You can see like elephantitis issues, which are like massive lymphatic swelling because of worms or parasites really disrupting more of the actual physical structure of the lymph. And that's, that's going to be the ultimate, end game or end stage type of disease presentation. But you can have in between stressors where fungus or bacteria or yeast or parasites are stressing out the lymph. So, of course, the first step is going to be seeing a good functional medicine doctor or practitioner that can help figure out what those stressors are and then work on killing and addressing those infections. Now, I think we hit everything up pretty good from a foundational level. Now, what are some supplements that we use clinically to help? Well, I'll tell you off the bat, ginger is a really, really great one. And I used it part of my gut program preventatively because it helps with inflammation. It helps with gastroparesis. It helps with digestion. It helps with the lymph. It's also a natural biofilm buster. So supporting the biofilms and supporting the lymph and the inflammation. We kind of use ginger tea as kind of a catch-all. I'll let you go list off some of yours, Evan. I have a couple others I want to hit up too.
The red root's going to be my favorite. I personally felt the difference using red root when I did have that low left quadrant pain. I started using a blend. So I can't tell you it was red root just by itself. I would tell you it's probably a combination of some of the other ones in there like burdock, but the red root for sure helped reduce swelling. And if we are doing a Lyme or a co-infection protocol with someone, red root has some antimicrobial properties too, but I was using it just for spleen and general lymph support.
Yeah, so red root or red clover is pretty much, I think, the same thing. Also, burdock root's powerful. In my GI Clear 4 product, I put the burdock root in there because it really helps support the lymph. So burdock's amazing, red root. There's also a famous cancer formula that had been used by natural cancer people for, I think, 80 years called Essiac tea. And Essiac tea has like rhubarb in there, but the big thing that it has burdock, like I just mentioned, which is a really powerful lymphatic cleanser. A lot of natural cancer people have known for a long time that burdock helps because the lymph tends to be overstressed with people that have cancer. So even if you're doing chemotherapy or a conventional cancer program, you really want to work on supporting and helping to cleanse your lymph because all this stuff's coming into your body and you want to make sure that you can filter it out after it's gone and done its thing with the cancer cells. So Essiac tea or some kind of a natural lymphatic support is going to be really helpful. And I would say systemic enzymes, especially serrapeptidase or lumbrokinase, are amazing because all of this viscousness or kind of stagnant sludge that can build up in the lymph, the enzymes are kind of like a liquid plumber, so to speak. So you have that clog deep in your drain. You don't want to call the plumber to go pull out the snake to kind of break it up physically, but you may put some liquid plumber in, which is going to break it down internally through various enzymes or corrosive compounds. We can use enzymes internally, which are natural. They aren't going to hurt our body, and they're going to help break down some of that inflammation, break down some of the cytokines, break down any sludge. So some of these enzymes can be amazing. We got to take them away from food, typically an hour before food, 3 hours after, and we take higher amounts. And they really help kind of root our system.
Good. That's a killer recommendation. We've done a podcast before on immune system in general, but I'll just throw some other general support immune herbs at you. So like astragalus, echinacea, those are going to be a couple good ones. Medicinal mushrooms, I would say, could and should be part of the protocol too, like some reishi, cordyceps, maitake, shiitake, beta glucans. Anything that's generally supportive of antiviral, antimicrobial, immune support. Olive leaf, I would throw that in. Now, does it directly influence lymph? I don't know. I could probably look into some studies and see, but I just know that for me, olive leaf is helpful for beating candida and helping as an antiviral. So I think that could be a good strategy.
Yeah, it looked like your lymph is like your pre-filter, and think of your kidneys and liver as like the post-filter. So anytime you're supporting the liver or the kidneys, you're having an effect on the lymphatic system because everything has to go back to the heart, which then gets its way into the tissue again, which then has to make its way back to the lymph. So you can create a backup. So things like astragalus and cordyceps and chaparral, these are all medicinal compounds that will help support the kidneys. And we use a lot with kidney patients. And we know things like mold and mycotoxins stress out the lymph. And we know that there's studies that they stress out the kidneys as well. So anytime you support the kidneys or the liver, you're going to be helping your detoxification, or you're going to be helping your lymphatic system directly and indirectly.
Yeah, I just found a research paper here looking at the different herbs used for lymphoma. So green tea extract was mentioned, milk thistle, reishi mushroom, sunshine exposure, olive leaf extract, reducing sugar, stress, alcohol. So yeah, I mean, pretty much everything we're already doing. We're kind of fixing lymphatic issues often, even when we're targeting a primary issue like a viral, bacterial, pathogen problem, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and then lymph nodes are pretty much going to be everywhere in your body. I mean, you're going to see it really conglomerate in and around the throat area. You're going to see it conglomerate in the axillary armpit area, and then you'll see them really conglomerate in the growing area. So that's where a lot of them are going to be. And like the first major thing that anyone listening to this that has lymphatic things, what's the best thing you can do is, number one, get your diet on a paleo template, get the inflammation down. Number two, get enough good, clean water and fluids in your system with maybe a little pinch of Bredman's real salt or some kind of high quality mineral salt. And then number three, move. And that could be anything from just, if you're totally sedentary or wheelchair bound, just isometric where you're contracting your muscles and not even actually moving, or actually someone just going for a walk, or someone actually doing a workout, or even doing whole body vibration, where you actually sit on a vibration plate and that stimulates your lymph system. And then you could do things outside of that by doing a massage, getting a lymph brush, or actually getting a really good deep tissue or Swedish massage to help really move a lot of this lymph, which can help and stimulate your immune system too.
Great strategies. And get the testing done too. Figure out what you're up against. There's something happening, right? If your lymphatic system's not working properly, there's a reason. So now you just got to do some digging and figure out what it was. In my case, I have multiple things I had to fix, and I'm still working on fixing.
Exactly. And then of course the nuanced things are going to be all of the infections. So you really want to work with your functional medicine doc on that to help that. Of course, when we have inflammation issues in our body, we already talked about the things that you can control, but your adrenals are a big interplay because your adrenals help regulate inflammation. They're your natural anti-inflammatory. We talked about how the thyroid has a major role and can create edema, which can put more stress on the lymph because you have all this fluid that's pooling, that it just makes it harder to kind of get it back up into circulation and clean it out. And then all of the infections, like I mentioned, and all the supplements that you can use. It's really important, though, that you start with the hierarchy. All the things we talked about 1, 2, 3, and 4 before we go on to 5 and 6, which are going to be the lymphatic supporting herbs, as well as killing the infections. And we could put activated charcoal in there too, because activated charcoal is a great cleanser in the gut. And if we're cleansing crud out in the gut, that means there's less chance that it has to get circulated back to the lymphatic system because it's going out in the toilet, because it's going to be stuck in the intestines, packaged up with the straitjacket on it, and then out into the toilet. So activated charcoal or any type of really good binders or fulvic minerals can help bind up a lot of this junk and help you excrete it as well.
Cool. It's interesting. You know, we talk about a topic, we try to go and zoom into that topic, but we always end up connecting it to the other piece, mainly because that's important for us to get that message across. But because you literally can't focus on just one body system, you literally can't, you will fail. Like if you just, I'm going to go take a bunch of lymph supporting herbs, you're not going to succeed because you've got to address everything else. And for you to throw the adrenals in there too is critical, because a lot of people ignore that. And that's why, I mean, one of the first things you and I talked about, 4 or 5 years ago was, hey, you got to have adrenals on board, whether you're working on thyroid, gut, infections. Like adrenals are literally the pillar that holds you up to make you strong enough to be able to handle working on any other system. So if your practitioner just doubles down on killing things in your gut and you don't have adrenal support on board, that could be a reason you're not feeling as good, or you're still dealing with chronic fatigue type issues. You may just be overloading the system and the adrenals can't keep up.
100%. I think that makes total sense, man. Well, today was a really great chat. Is there anything else you want to add about the lymph or add about any functional medicine aspects connected to this?
I don't think so. We could always do part 2, but for now, I think that's a good lymph support and dysfunction 101, and we could dive deeper next time.
Great. Well, if you guys are listening to this, we really appreciate a thumbs up, a share. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you give us a share, hit that bell as well, and put comments down below. We really want to know what you guys think. We want to get ideas for future topics. We really appreciate you guys jumping in. To reach out to Evan, evanbrand.com. Evan does consults all over the world. justinhealth.com for me. We all do consults everywhere. So if anyone's in any country, feel free to reach out. We'll be happy to help you. And I hope everyone's enjoying a lot of this free content and not just listening to it and being entertained, which we hopefully are, but we want to make sure that you guys are picking at least one thing where you can apply to your health and to your daily routine to make yourself healthier.
Amen. Amen. Well, great chatting with you. Look forward to talking with you again next week.
Awesome, Evan, man. You have a great day. We'll talk soon.
Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.